movie.
Yeah.
And right now it's been all over the world. We played at the London Film Festival, and we opened the Bologna Film Festival. It's been everywhere.
It's fabulous.
This student from Harvard at the time named David Chen saw that movie, and he had a movie podcast on the internet called with slashfilm.com where he reviewed movies. And he loved Birthday Party and wanted to talk to me. This is back when I had the broken neck. So I'm sitting at home and I get a call from this guy who I don't know. And he says, how would you like to continue what you did with Stephen Tobolowsky's Birthday Party? Tell true stories about your life, but we'll do them as a podcast. And I'll produce it, I'll record it, you do whatever you want. And so I thought, on the internet, it's filled with people just winging it. And I said, well, David, I have a lot of time on my hands now, and I'm thinking of Dangerous Animals Club, about writing these. I'm thinking about writing these stories anyway. Let me write. I will write these stories down. And so now these stories have been, of course, with the internet, they've been all over the world. They've been on national radio, and we just put out episode 68 this last week. So that's 68 hours of the Tobowlowsky Files, which is free, totally free. And let me tell you, good things come to you when you do it for free too, because I was invited to Dublin to do some of my stories. I was invited to Auckland to do some of my stories.
Yeah.
So it's been fun doing this. And yeah, it's interesting when you become a character in your podcast, because once you tell the story, it changes. It changes you by the fact that it's no longer in your head, by the fact that you've concretized and committed to writing the story. It somehow is no longer just yours. So I have mixed feelings about all that.
Well, I can understand that, but it's such a gift to the world to give it, because the stories are that wonderful and that informative, in that you take what I every time I listen to one of your stories, I just take it and bring it back to my own life. It opens up so many processes in my brain. Yeah. I want to talk about Californication. I want to talk about stew bags.
Yeah.
Okay. What was it like to get naked and fake fornicate and stuff with the talented Pamela Adlon? Let me take this out one step. I was watching Dakota Johnson and Jamie Dornan the other day talk about their sex scenes in 50 Shades of Grey. I was thinking about you walking around buck-ass naked. And you guys doing the little shtick that you were doing. And, they said, it's all so technical, and there are only a few people there, but it's, we count how we breathe, we count how we, what a crock of, you tell me you don't get turned on when you're, I don't believe you can't get turned on when you're playing those scenes. Come on, talk to me. Your wife's not listening.
You cannot get turned on doing those scenes. Let me give you an example. Now, who in Californication? I had a love scene with Pam. Now, let me tell you also, it depends who your partner is. Like Pam Adlon, I would have fake fornication with Pam Adlon any day of the week. She is the best fake lover in the world. She is hysterical. She's a wonderful person. And it takes a good partner, just like real sex. You have to sign a rider with the Screen Actors Guild, a 4-page simulated sex rider that says no part of you will enter any part of Pam Adlon, and there will always be a barrier in between you and any part of Pam. So for this particular sex scene, the barrier was a Stay Freed maxi pad, and I had my face buried in a Stay Free maxi pad for 5 hours as they shot the scene from different angles. Now, that takes a professional actor. I know there's some young people out there who want to go into acting. That takes a professional.
All that training, darling.
They asked me how large of a penis I wanted on the show. Now, where do you get asked that question? And so the guy who was asking me this is a specialist. He says that he has stuffed the crotches of some of the biggest people in Hollywood. Well, if he's stuffing the crotches, they're obviously not the biggest people in Hollywood. But anyway, so he has this array of sexual appendages to stick in my pants to pretend to be me. And he says, you just pick whatever one you want. Well, obviously, as a guy, you pick the biggest one first.
Oh, of course.
But then they have no pants that could fit around that. And so we ended up with 2 pairs of rolled up tube socks and a drinking glass, kind of rolled together, stuffed into my shorts. Now, one time, no, this is true, and this is awful. This is a horrible story.
Oh, great. I can't wait.
You love those. It's different when you're on stage.
Oh.
I had to do a scene where I was making out with a girl on stage. And we were in this play. It was a hit play, crazy play called No Scratch. And I was making out with Joan Perkle for several months. We were running at the Odyssey Theater in Los Angeles. And Joan is a wonderful actress. Great sense of humor. Indeed, you always need a great sense of humor when you're making out with them constantly. I did get, what's the technical word? I did get aroused one night during this show. And I was wearing kind of those drawstring cargo pants, which meant I could not stand up. And I had to stand up and do a monologue. I had to get up soon and do a monologue. So Joni is kissing me, and I'm whispering to her, I'm saying, stop. You have to stop now. This can't go on any further. And she looked down, and she saw that little Steve was in action. And she started laughing hysterically. And I said, stop laughing. We have to. But actually, the laughter could have helped. As it turned out, now this is kind of an interesting sidebar to this story. This was a futuristic play, took place in the future where everybody is wearing like chainmail and bits and pieces of football uniforms and all sorts of stuff, and there's constant war going on, and it takes place in a theater where they do a play with no script for 24 hours constantly, and the actors live on stage. As it turned out, the designer for a film that was going to be called Mad Max was in the audience watching our play before the Mad Max trilogy came out, and our design from our play was in the Mad Max trilogy.
Wow, that's
of the
cool.
People wearing the chain mail and all that stuff. So as a policeman, I'm wearing like these kind of drawstring cargo pants and chainmail. So I had to get up to do that speech. And so while Joan was laughing, I pushed the chainmail down as hard as I could, creating an enormous amount of pain.
Ouch.
And I still did the speech seated with my legs crossed. But it did teach me an important lesson, which is never get involved with people you're working with. It just
not a good idea.
Not a good idea.
Not a good idea.
Even on stage, you just got to pretend. You can't get emotionally involved.
So I want to talk to you. First of all, you've got a recurring role right now on the Goldbergs as Principal Ball. You're working with one of my favorite people in the whole world, George Siegel. Wonderful guy.
Haven't done a scene with him.
I know you haven't, but
one of
you
my
should,
favorite actors
he
in the
is.
world too.
You should. He's a great guy. I used to play with him years ago in Hollywood. Okay, so that's just the great thing. But you've got something huge coming, big time in Hollywood, Florida.
I'm in Hollywood, Florida.
Ben Stiller. Oh my God. He's executive producer. Comedy Central. Let me get it out. March 4th. Talk to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was remarkable. These two young guys, Alex Onfonger and Dan Schimpf. Remember those names, everybody, because you will. These guys, this is the new paradigm. This is where entertainment is. These two young guys did a, what do you call it, a webisode? One of these things that you film and you put on the internet. Like, no big deal. But it was so funny and so unique and so skillfully put together by these two guys. New York Times wrote an article about them. Ben Stiller saw the show and said, we got to work with these guys. And so Ben Stiller was our executive producer, took Alex and Dan to Comedy Central, and they crafted this show big time in Hollywood, Florida. And it is one of the most delightful casts. I thought I would never be on a show again as fun to work on as Californication. But Big Time in Hollywood, Florida was so fun and so funny. And we have Cuba Gooding Jr., and we have Michael Madsen, and we have Jason Alexander. We have so many great. Kathy Baker plays my wife. It's such a great, funny show. And I haven't seen any of it except for when I looped. And when I looped and saw my stuff and other people's stuff, it was funny. But what I saw was the surprise in Ben Stiller's eyes. He came up to me when we did one of those panels where we talked to film critics and stuff about the show. And you expect people who are involved in the show to do the old, hello, Howard, glad hand. Oh, man, the show's fabulous. You're wonderful. Oh, we love it. You expect that. But what you don't expect is the surprise. And Ben looked at me and said, like, Stephen, it's really hilarious. It really is funny. It's one of the funniest things I've ever seen. And when Ben Stiller is saying that, it means something. The last time somebody hit me with that surprise was Ridley Scott. We had finished shooting Thelma and Louise. I'm walking down Wilshire Boulevard, and Ridley comes out of some building there, and he says, Stephen, I just put the movie together, and it's good. I think it really is good. And it was the surprise that sold me. And I think big time in Hollywood, Florida. When does it premiere? It premieres sometime in March?
March 4th, Comedy Central. Can't wait.
It's going to be hilarious, I think.
I'm sure. Not I think. I'm sure.
Well, it's if the hilarity that we were experiencing on the set is captured by the film, then it's going to be amazing. And Ben said that's one of the things that makes it work, is that the kind of feeling of fellow feeling among the cast.
Oh, yeah, when you have, that does. When everybody loves each other and everybody gets along, sure, that always makes for, you were on Seinfeld, that Seinfeld was the best of that. I mean, you could see how everybody was. Listen, you also have the primary instinct.
Yeah, boy, again, it's the new paradigm. David Chen said, how would you feel about doing a Kickstarter movie? Kickstarters are like relationships for people out there. You never ask for what you need. You only ask for what you think you can get. Because if you fall short of your Kickstarter goal, you get nothing. So we asked for $40,000. We were lucky we got 50. And we did a movie of me doing a concert event in Seattle of my stories. We only had the time and money and camera crew to do one show. So we have one show, we have 7 cameras, we have a sound crew, and the show, it couldn't have gone any better. And it was delightful. We had 1,000 people show up for this thing. It was filmed, and the movie is terrific. And it's, again, true stories kind of from my life, kind of woven together. And right now, the film has been locked, which means that it's completed, and it's been sent out to the film festivals. And we have 2 or 3 film festivals that have already asked us to show it, and it's a miracle that it even got made. But it is delightful. It is a very sweet movie, and I love it a lot. A lot like Birthday Party, except it's one long story as opposed to 30 short stories.
Okay, the primary instinct, so everybody look for that. I also wanted, before we close, I want to bring this. You've been married for 27 years? Yes?
Wow. Yeah.
That's just in Hollywood, no less. Oh, my God.
In Hollywood. Let me tell you, and we've only tried to get divorced 3 times.
Well, hey, that's not bad.
That's
not bad at all. I mean, all things considered. You deserve an Emmy, by the way, for that achievement. I mean, who does that? Not for the 2 sons you guys produced, by the way, because, but for the long marriage in Hollywood. So really, despite everything, despite all the craziness and all the quirks, Stephen, you're a mensch. You're a quirky mensch.
I love that girl. Let me tell you, I love that girl. And, she's saved my life 3 times. Wow. And you know how a dog is when you save its life. Mm-hmm. So multiply that by 3. And this dog is that grateful.
Boy, are you lucky.
I love her to death. And, you learn a lot. If you stay married for 27 years, you either get divorced or you learn a lot. And we learned a lot. And we love each other dearly, dearly.
I'll tell you, she's a lucky girl. I think, so this is what I'm going to say to you as we say, sayonara or whatever it is. You've earned that Davy Crockett coonskin cap. I've been speaking with Stephen Tobolowsky, currently appearing on ABC's The Goldbergs and soon to be seen in Comedy Central's hilarious new show, executive produced by Ben Stiller, big time in Hollywood, Florida. Be sure to pick up his book, Dangerous Animal Club, by way of Simon & Schuster, and visit his website, stephentobolowsky.wordpress.com, for a look at everything he's doing. Before I go, I want to remind everyone that podcasts of current and past shows are always available to listen to free on iTunes under the Halli Casser-Jayne Show. The Halli Casser-Jayne Show is also available for download via Spreaker.com, Stitcher.com, BlogTalkRadio.com, and a host of other venues. Google the Halli Casser-Jayne Show, and you will find us. Of course, podcasts of our shows, both past and present, are always posted for your listening pleasure at HalliCasserJayne.com, which I hope you'll visit often for the latest information on our upcoming segments. Oh, and while you're at HalliCasserJayne.com, don't forget to visit my blog to read my latest musings. I'll be back next week, same time, 3 p.m. Eastern, for another edition of the Halli Casser-Jayne Show, talk radio for fine minds, brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download at